your haircut?
Yeah.
Looks good.
Thank you. Everybody likes it.
Yeah. I think she's ready. Call to order Muncie Park and Recreation Board meeting Tuesday, March 17th. Would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ashley Gray, C.J. Johnson,
Present.
Mark Irvin, Shannon Powers,
Here.
Brad Marshall,
Here. Mark did have another commitment. He should be joining us late, and Ashley did indicate she was under the weather today. Was going to be joining us from home, so she's watching there. Do want to welcome our new board member, CJ. Thanks for volunteering your service to support the Parks Board and support the community. So appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've got the approval of the minutes from the February meeting. There's no discussion or revisions. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Sorry. So moved.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now we have the 5-year master plan RFQ application presentations. So this is a process that is a little bit new to us. We did this almost 6 years ago now. We did a 5-year plan, presented that, and that process allows us to apply for some federal grants, allows us to support some funding for the parks, kind of gives us a vision for the next 5 years moving forward. So with this 5-year plan, we made a decision to request outside support for this process. So we sent out an RFQ, request for qualifications, and we had 4 respondents. We made a decision that we would interview all 4 of the respondents here at this Parks Board meeting. The next step in this process, the individual Park Board members will rank the selections. That'll be passed back to the city engineer, and they will review the rankings and then work with the high score recipient on a contract to develop a 5-year plan for the city. Any questions from the board before we start the process here? All right, first on the list, we've got REA, and I believe we've got Cecil, and I don't know who else he brought with his team here.
Good evening.
Oh, sorry. Probably should, yeah, the other representative. So I guess we've got REA, we've got Flatland, Framework, and American Structure Point. So yeah, if you're directly affiliated with the other 3, I'll have you step out while they present. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Thank you guys for inviting us to be here this evening and to interview with you for the 5-year Parks and Rec Master Plan. Kyle just passed out a short presentation we have, just some slides we're going to go through as we discuss the opportunity here this evening. So just real quick, we're going to make this brief in case you guys have any questions or conversation that you would like to have with us, but we just want to do a brief introduction of ourselves and REA, a little bit about our portfolio of work, a little bit about the process we typically use when we're developing a 5-year Parks and Rec plan, and then open it up for discussion. So with that, again, my name's Cecil Penland. I'm a partner at Rundell Ernstberger Associates. I'm a landscape architect, and with me tonight I have Kyle Koger. Kyle will be acting as the project manager for the project, but Kyle and I have completed multiple 5-year Parks and Rec plans together, and Kyle's a local resident here in Delaware County, and I'm also a former resident of Delaware County. So In addition to Kyle and I, we will also have a team of folks back in the office who will be assisting us. Two that we wanted to specifically mention are Noel Dennis and Jesse Wu. They will be engaged in some of the background community demographic research and then in some of the public engagement, and as well as coming up with some ideas and doing inventory and analysis. So with that, just a little bit about REA. REA is an interdisciplinary firm. We have civil engineers, urban planners, landscape architects, and construction inspectors on staff. We really pride on ourselves in celebrating the unique and individual identity of every community that we work in. We have over 45 years of experience. We started right here in Muncie, Indiana in 1978, and then I actually worked here until 2014 when our offices were consolidated and I got shifted down to Indianapolis. So we really pride on ourselves on creating lifelong partnerships with our clients, and as we kind of get into this, you'll see we've had a significant amount of work in the city of Muncie and Ball State in the past, and really excited about the opportunity to continue that relationship with the community. So again, just a little bit about who we are when it comes to this process. We really pride ourselves on staying in front of emerging recreational opportunities. Some of those things, you know, might be pickleball courts and splash pads, the things that are trending, making sure we're staying on top of that, but also creating diverse programming opportunities in the Parks Department, because we want to make sure they're programmed as often as they can be. So thinking about how can the parks be used on a multi-seasonal approach, not just spring and summer, but also fall and winter. How can we create social activities that bring the community together, and how do we create activities that support all ages and abilities within the community? So that happens through trails and greenways, connecting people to nature, making sure that we're looking at universal design, not just accessible design, but giving people equal opportunities to amenities within the system. And then, you know, the big one is always restrooms, making sure we have restrooms in key places for people to use. The other thing that I think is unique about REA is even though we have a strong history of parks planning, we also have a strong history of implementation. And that really is a testament to the folks that work at REA. Again, it's that multidisciplinary approach of engineers and landscape architects, but we have listed a few case studies here, and there are many more of five-year parks plans that have resulted in real built projects and real impacts to those local communities. So just for example, in Zionsville, we completed their five-year parks plan a few years ago, and they're finishing up Overland Mormon Park and Carpenter Nature Preserve, working with a small community outside of Evansville on their five-year park, and they're just completing an aquatic facility right now that we're helping them implement. And then communities as small as Spencer, Indiana, which is like 1,600 people, helping them actually see trails projects come to life through helping them write grants and do master plans for their trail system. If you guys have any questions along the way, just let me know. Sorry. So with that, we just wanted to hit on a little bit of our project portfolio. And again, I'm going to keep this brief and at a high level. But when you start to look at our relevant project experience and our Muncie Parks projects, I think we've done over probably nearly 350 or 400 commissions here within Muncie, Ball State, and Delaware County. Some of the more notable ones that we've done that you might be familiar with as the Parks Department would be Cornerstone Park. Kyle and I worked on that together several years ago. I managed the development of Cannon Commons several years ago. We also recently completed the Muncie Memorial Spiral, West Side Skate Park, and we were also the designers on the Downtown Gateway that's forthcoming, and continuing to work with the Parks Department on some various improvements. So in addition to city and Parks Department work, we've also done a lot of work with Ball State University, about 200 commissions there over the last 40 years. And some of the more recent work we've done there includes the East Mall. We are under contract with them right now to assist them on the Village Green in the Village, which will be a great new gathering space in the Village. We helped the city several years ago on the feasibility study for the Muncie Arts and Culture Trail. And we've also done other projects that are not fun parks projects, but also great projects, but like the ADA transition plan for the city. We've assisted with the county on the ADA transition plan. We've also worked on the I-69 corridor feasibility study, which was about promoting development at the interchanges through Delaware and Grant counties. So as I mentioned, we have an extensive portfolio of parks and rec planning. This page here just shows kind of a sampling of some of the recent projects we've done. Five-year parks plans for Zionsville, Anderson, communities again as small as 1,600, and communities as large as Evansville, and everything in between. We're very familiar with the IDNR guidelines, the process. Every one of these projects has met that process and been accepted by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. And we always try to go above and beyond and exceed their minimum requirements. And then again, we just have a couple of more pages of relevant experience. I'm not going to list them all, but we've done dozens of 5-year parks and rec plans, as well as just community parks master plans. So with that, I want to turn it over to Kyle and let him talk to you a little bit about our planning process, because Kyle would be kind of the daily boots on the ground project manager working on your project.
Yeah, if you guys turn into your packet to the preliminary project schedule there. Again, the schedule is just preliminary, it's not set in stone, but this is just something we put together for the presentation today to kind of show you what that timeline and sequence would look like. Looking at it, it's probably about a 12-month process. The IDNR's final draft of the report is due in April of 2027. So assuming we would get started in the next couple of months, that would carry throughout this next year. Really, we go through kind of a 4-phase process with discovery, visioning, synthesis, and final report. The first step would be having a kickoff meeting with you guys, kind of identifying your visions, your goals, reviewing the previous master plan and so forth, and just gathering any other studies, reports, et cetera, that would be relevant to us in our study. The discovery phase, again, that would be kind of doing site inventory analysis, SWOT analysis, so that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats, doing the ADA assessment, and then also starting to think about conducting stakeholder meetings and public engagement. Moving into visioning, which would be kind of the August, September range potentially, that would be starting to kind of define those goals and visions and objectives of the new park master plan. We would start recommending some initial recommendations and then also starting to look at a level of service analysis and a benchmark study. Moving into the synthesis process, that would be in kind of the November, December, January, so late fall, winter time. We would start looking at preliminary concepts, setting priorities and action items, and then also starting to look at some initial cost estimates and phasing. And then, from January 2027 on to that deadline in April, we would be writing that final report and kind of combining all the final edits and comments into that. As you can see kind of at the bottom of that diagram, the DNR requires minimum of 2 public engagement sessions, and we've kind of outlined where those would probably fall. The first one would just be a general open house to gain feedback, desires, interests, and so forth from the public. And that second one would kind of be more of a, here's some of our recommendations. What do you think? Is it a yay or nay kind of a feedback loop? And then the DNR's first draft is due in November of 2026, and the final draft again is due in April of 2027. We also, with the schedule, we generally recommend regular meetings with you guys and with the stakeholder group or the leadership group to kind of keep us on track, get feedback and so forth. We found that biweekly meetings are pretty good about that, but again, we can set that schedule if we were to be selected. So moving on to the next page, just looking at the master plan process. The first step we would do is just look at the existing master plan, look at those goals that were established there, review those with you guys, see if those are still relevant or if time has changed and if there's new goals that have developed. Also with that, we would be looking kind of into the future and asking the question, what do you guys want to see out of the plan? And then also, encouraging you guys to dream bigger. This master plan is a 5-year plan, but obviously there's longer term goals that could be started to be implemented now that we should look into designing or concerning for. And then finally, kind of this idea of right sizing. So just looking at the park system, seeing what amenities, what facilities are out there, prioritizing kind of resources in terms of that. Maybe there's a park that's underutilized that maybe could be shrunk, or there's a park that's really active that needs more resources. So we look at that as well. Flipping on to the next page, we were talking about kind of our public engagement process. We've done a lot of different varieties in how we engage the public. It can be as simple as an open house. We've facilitated websites. We've done hard copy and digital surveys. We've manned booths at events, festivals around here or around other communities. So farmers markets, I've participated in a booth at a 5K run, so engaging kind of those runners, walkers in a park community. We've produced and led interactive children's games. And in one instance, you can see there in the photo on the bottom right, we've actually held a walking and biking tour when we were doing a transportation plan, so just something different. Moving on to the next slide is benchmarking level analysis study. This is just an example of a level analysis and benchmarking study we did for another community. Again, you're just comparing yourself against some of your peers in terms of what resources you have and what you're lacking in and so forth. With that, we'd also look at finances. So the Indiana Gateway provides that kind of data that we could cross-compare with. And then looking nationally at the NPRA or NRPA park metrics in terms of where you guys stand with your national peers. Moving on to the next page. This is just an example. Again, the DNR has minimums, but we like to go above and beyond. And as part of the design process or the planning process, we generally pick 2 or 3, or I guess it depends on what you guys want to look at, but some capital improvement projects or some projects that you're going to want to see implemented firsthand, and we prepare concept plans for those, so site plan and some precedent images and so forth. So that's just one thing that might set us apart from, say, our peers. And then I guess the next slide is, again, looking at that level of service analysis and starting to look at budgets. This is just kind of a matrix that we developed for another master plan. It looks at the goals, objectives, and then starts to set priorities. Is it a high priority, a low priority, medium? Timeline, is it something that's ongoing that maybe is occurring from the previous master plan? Or is it something that's short-term or long-term? And then also starting to look at associating costs with that. Is it a relatively cheap cost? Is it a higher cost? And then where that funding source would come from. So that's just a table or matrix you can look at to provide an example of how we've laid that out. So with that, just kind of recapping who we are, our portfolio, very extensive, and then just the planning process. I'll open it up to questions from the board, and happy to help or answer, and people's happy to answer as well.
Any questions from the board?
You handle every aspect, no subcontracting, everything with your team?
Right.
Nothing is subcontracted?
Yep.
All right.
We're multidisciplinary, so again, we have our planning resources, we have the engineering resources, and we have our LA staff that can help with a lot of different tasks.
I like how you include an ADA assessment in the plan.
That's required by the IDNR, but yes, we
Oh, that's new.
we have pretty extensive studies on ADA assessment. So
That's good.
You see any challenges with completing a master plan for the Muncie City Parks, or what's going to be the biggest struggle?
we haven't got into it yet, so we don't know. But yeah, you want?
Well, I was just going to say, I think honestly the biggest challenge we've had in the past is what we really like is an engaged client and an engaged Parks Board and Parks Department, because that makes our job so much easier. We don't see any issue with hitting the timeline as far as evaluating the 30-plus parks you guys have in your system. We recently just completed other for communities of similar size and started later in the year. So no concerns about the timeline. It's really just what really makes the final product better is when you folks are engaged and the community is engaged. So that's what we really want to do. That also gets our team excited and keeps the ball rolling. So.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ariette?
No.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your presentation.
Yeah. Thank you.
I guess if you want to stick your head out there and maybe send in Flatland.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. David.
May I approach the
Absolutely.
These are
Thank you.
just projects we've worked on for the city of Muncie, some funding, and then on the back is a proposed timeline for anticipated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm David Heilman with Flatland Resources.
I'm Kurt Stegmiller.
I guess you got an overview or presentation, or how do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so I'll give a quick overview of who we are. So again, we're Flatland Resources. We're a local design consulting firm based here in Muncie. We've been working in Muncie for 25, 30 years on quality place improvements within the park system, adjacent to the park system all around Muncie. Cardinal Greenway, White River Greenway, Kitzelman Trailhead, Craddock Wetlands, Minnetrista, you name kind of a destination in Muncie, and we've been fortunate enough to work on that design, public engagement, construction. So our hands and fingers are kind of interwoven with the fabric of Muncie and the community, and we're just thankful that we get an opportunity to work on this project with you guys. And yeah, we can keep talking, but as we've found best in projects like this, best to have a discussion. So we also want to be able to ask questions of you guys and just kind of talk about what your expectations are, what excites you about the park system for the next 5, 10, 20 years, and then what maybe your expectations would be of us. We were fortunate enough to work alongside you.
Well, I know, as kind of discussed on the intro there, we completed a plan that was done in-house per se. So certainly didn't have any external professional resources 5 years ago. We certainly identified some gaps there, and know we've got some areas of focus that we want to work on for this next plan.
If it's okay, I ask, what do you see as those areas that you guys would like to work on?
Certainly the two I think the board's discussed before is the Prairie Creek and Tui. Both were not overlooked, but maybe not as focused as they could have been in the 5-year plan. And it was I would say vague plan where I think any of the candidates here are going to probably provide more details and more in-depth features than we put together on the last revision. No, Shannon was really involved. She's probably got more insight there and thought on what we missed.
Well, can I ask another question?
Yes.
What are the components that you would include in your plan?
So, I mean, at a minimum, all the components that would be necessary to meet the DNR requirements so that the plan is certified at the state level
Okay.
for, to allow for federal and state funding to kind of flow into Muncie, right? So, there's community engagement, there's the demographic, historical analysis, which Kurt can speak to in greater in-depth. Right, there's the laying out of the implementation plan, the components of capital improvements, maintenance, natural features, right? There's a whole litany of things that they're looking for, right? But that's also just kind of the bare minimum. I think what has made the plans that you put together last time and the Prairie Creek Master Plan so successful was the level of community input and engagement and trying to really understand what the people want and what they're looking for in the parks. Obviously, we have to balance that with the realities of funding and the Senate Bill 1 and how that's going to affect our community and the budget going forward. But again, I think we've got a solid foundation with these previous plans, and we want to be able to build upon that and understand what people's motivations, what their how they want to use the parks has changed for the last 20 plus years and what they're looking forward to the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
In a look at the previous 3 plans, I think there's a lot of strengths there. The 2009 and 2014 versions have a lot of historical information. They have a lot of even like geological information about the area, history going far back before the city was here, and then history of the city parks themselves, and they also have individual goals and objectives for each city park laid out. The most recent plan does not go into as much detail on individual parks, and it doesn't go as far back into history, but it is really strong in terms of community engagement. I think that's maybe where the previous 2 iterations fell a little bit short. And I think that community engagement is about the most valuable tool that there is here. And looking forward, there is so much community engagement data in the most recent plan. You can exponentially increase the value of that data by asking the same questions in the same way again and building on that and starting to show trends, where we were and where we're going and how the community sees where we're going.
We actually have been collecting data for 2 years now,
Started
So
that
we've had-
process.
an open survey. And we expounded upon the same research questions. So that will be available. I think for this next iteration, what would help our board is identification of funding sources would be very useful for us. Because it's, especially with a lot of the funding, or the federal funding on pause right now. What are some other sources? That would be very useful for us.
Absolutely, and in your handout, you'll see that on the left side, the right side of the front page, we put together some quick math of all the grant funding, federal, state, and local, that we've been able to kind of put into parks, right? This isn't all inclusive of every project we worked on in Muncie. It's inclusive of just what we see as city parks and greenways, right? So I think we have extensive relationships with local foundations. With the DNR, we've implemented countless ITP and RTP projects, Land and Water Conservation Fund projects, other trail projects, and worked with INDOT and other federal agencies on helping to bring money to the city of Muncie, right, to improve quality of life and quality of place here.
Have you written other master plans?
Yes, we have. We just finished one a couple years ago for Yorktown.
Okay.
We are in the process of implementing that now with them.
Yeah.
We have done some other master plans for some smaller organizations. And while we don't necessarily have extensive park master plan projects themselves, we have implemented a lot of the pieces, right? So community engagement we've done for a ton of trail projects, the Cardinal Greenway, White River Greenway, Riverside Trail, for other park projects, grant funding, acquisition, implementation even. So I think we have a lot of extensive history and a lot of even the individual pieces that you would find wrapped up in a master plan itself.
Sounds good.
Any other questions from the board?
How many people will be on your team?
So Kurt and I,
Yeah.
Phil will also be on our team. He is on vacation right now. And then we have access to a couple other staff members or employees at Flatland Resources that will be able to assist and help with putting the plan together.
Any other questions?
Want to ask your question again?
Anything else to add, guys?
Yeah, I just want to say, again, we're local. We live here in town, so everyone that works at Flatland Resources lives in Muncie, except for one employee who lives in Delaware County near Prairie Creek Reservoir, right? So we live and breathe Muncie, right? We are in the parks, not only building it, but we play in the parks. My son plays in the soccer league. In the spring and the fall, we use the parks all the time. So we have a vested interest, not only as a company, just because it's a project, but because we live here. And, we have to see you guys every day, right? So we want this project to be a success. We want it to be a success for our kids, even for ourselves, because we want to be able to relax and enjoy the community we live in. So, we care that much more because of our proximity to the city itself.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we've got framework. I don't know if they're out there in the hallway too, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, come on up. Come on up. Hi. Wherever
At
you
at the
want.
podium there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we were shaking hands. Good.
Yeah. And introduce yourself first, and then if you got a formal presentation, or we can just have discussion, either way is great.
Okay, sounds good. My name is David Armbruster. I'm with Framework Planning and Design. I'll just let you all do just a name intro. And then we can dive into it.
Katie Reichert, USI Consultants.
Josh Ferricks, USI Consultants.
Austin Hostetler, Zecade Insights.
Okay.
And then, so we did receive your packet. I think
Great.
all the boards had a chance to review that, but I guess if you kind of want to give a rundown of your firm and kind of the scope that you're seeing here, and anything you feel like we should know in making our decision.
Absolutely. Just want to clarify too, I think we were told 10 to 15 minutes.
We're not real firm on that, so
Okay.
kind of use your time. Obviously, if we get up to a half an hour, Nick, you'll probably be giving me the signal, but
That sounds good. Just want to make sure we respect your time. So,
Yep.
Good evening, and thank you all so much for giving us the opportunity to come before you, to introduce ourselves, and to share a little bit of our excitement at the possibility of partnering with you and establishing the vision for the next 5 years. This work is the work that we love to do because we believe that the power of parks and public spaces is enormous as the common denominator that sets the foundation for the wellness, for the vitality, the quality of life in a place like Muncie. And so we're grateful that you took the time to get to know us a little bit tonight. My name is David Armbruster. I'm with Framework Planning and Design, and I'm here on behalf of my colleagues, Principals Ryan Cambridge and Mark Beer, who are in Henderson, Nevada tonight. They picked a fortuitous time to be in a warm, sunny location where they are presenting a Parks and Recreation System master plan for council approval tonight. So that gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about why I'm happy to support the work that they're doing and to kind of get to introduce them to you on behalf of them. They actually tried to include a video in this package that they were hoping that we'd be able to play for you all, but in their stead, just want to communicate that Ryan and Mark, in forming the framework practice, wanted to provide a practice that is kind, is diligent, and is a practice that enables you all to realize the visions and goals of both, your personal ambition, but as well as your community's ambition and the Parks Department. And I think it's worth noting that both Mark and Ryan have extensive experience in local parks foundations, serving on parks boards, parks board president, alliances, Parks Foundation, just the whole gamut of IRPA involvement and things like that. And so they bring a wealth of knowledge in the parks world. They understand well the importance of consensus building in creating plans that are actionable, plans that aren't just going to sit on a shelf, but plans that build upon and coalesce the different abilities, experiences, and components that you all have to offer into something that can grow over time. We really pride ourselves on meeting you right where you're at right now with your fiscal reality, understanding the challenges with Senate Enrolled Act 1, taking the moment that you're in now, taking the capabilities that you have now in terms of operations and programming, and building upon those in incremental steps, utilizing what you have to get to where you want to be and to get to the vision that we help uncover. So this has been the recipe that's helped Framework be responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars in public funding through master plans such as this one. And we love the idea of bringing 30-plus years experience in the parks world to be available, accountable, and a trusted advisor for you all. not just kind of a traditional outside consultant. So where possible, we like to think of ourselves as an extension of the teams that we work with and a true project partner for you all. So with that, I think that covers sort of the framework scope, and I want to pass it on to Austin. Austin is a frequent project partner and someone who, that's great. Well, I'll pass it to Josh with USI first, and then pass it back to Austin.
Yeah, so my name is Josh Ferks with USI Consultants. I'm an urban designer and GIS lead, and our role is to support framework in the GIS analysis and mapping of the park facilities, amenities, and helping to understand the distribution of amenities within the parks. So that's kind of our lead and my specialty in this plan.
USI does have experience working with the City of Muncie, and most recently we've worked with Adam Leach on some transportation projects, design of Columbus Avenue, and we've worked with him completing the city's PASER ratings in order to complete the Pavement Asset Management Plan, which is a required submittal to keep the city up to date on and eligible for grants, which kind of ties into this because the thing that's really key and unique about this project team is that it's not just about completing a parks plan for you. We really want to focus on giving you something that's actionable and implementable. I think all of us can agree that there's oftentimes a long list of projects that we want to see done, and the hard part is finding grants and the resources and the funding to connect those projects. And we take a lot of pride in helping make those dreams and make that vision become a reality. So excited to be part of the support team on this project.
Thank you. My turn. So, Austin Hosteller, Zecade Insights, based out of the Indianapolis area. And I truly enjoy working in these multidisciplinary teams. Our firm is created to leverage the power of data, and so I'm a data-driven consultant. And so I specialize in operations and maintenance and recreation programming. And often in these multidisciplinary teams, when it comes to implementation plans that we just talked about, you just heard, there's a lot of capital improvement projects that come out. There's different types of visions. There's critical projects. There might be sustainable projects. But you also need to be functionally aligned with how you implement those and how we operate and how we maintain those. So I spend a lot of my time working on organizational management kind of governance plans. And so that's the expertise that I bring to this particular team. And also using the power of data to figure out what is the difference between a want and a need. And so we can align ourselves with best practices. We can look at levels of service. But what is truly an unmet need here within the community? And so my job is to help measure that. How do we measure unmet need versus those desires and wants? But again, looking at, are we organizationally aligned functionally? And I say functions because there's different requirements of every type of Parks and Recreation agency. And so we want to see what is it, the functions that you lead, what functions do you support, and what functions do other departments have their hand in that actually take the bulk of the weight that you all support then to deliver those functions for the city. And so I personally have worked on over 30 Indiana DNR related Parks and Recreation master plans if you're prescribing to that DNR checklist. So I'm very familiar with the DNR process. Currently I'm finishing Bartholomew County's master plan, so that's a county around Columbus, so working with the county park system. And nearby, just a couple years ago, we actually finished, I was part of the team that finished Madison County's first master plan, so that was actually establishing a park board through that effort. So that was really unique, being there from kind of the very beginning of the process, actually establishing the park board and the governance and all that fun stuff. So a lot of local experience, but I also work nationally, and so fortunately, unfortunately, I'm not in Henderson right now because I actually did the financial analysis for that particular master plan, but they can be warm. I'll be here in the normal temperature here. So operations, maintenance, recreation programs and services, and can't talk enough about a multidisciplinary team and how this team will really bring all that to kind of head, because you have capital projects, you have site-specific improvements, but also really looking at how do we activate spaces and how do we manage and operate those, not just for the short term, but for the long term. So with that, I'll just pass it over to talk about a few projects and then probably have some Q&A.
Yeah, happy to open it up to you all at this point. If it's more helpful for us to describe, some of the rationale behind the projects we chose and what we think they demonstrate, we're happy to talk a little bit about that. Or if you'd prefer just to move on to questions, we can do that too.
Could one of you elaborate on your local economic impact?
Yes, I'll certainly do the best I can. I want to note that I have, in a prior position in my career, I've worked with Mark and Ryan extensively and know them well, and have only spent about 6 months under this current title of Framework Planning and Design. So I'm going to do the best I can to fill in, and then also if you'd like to fill in too, happy to allow that to happen. In terms of dollars and cents, the largest project that Mark and Ryan have worked on together for about 10 years is in Doral in Florida, and was a $250 million basically economic campaign over that period of time for funding for both park system as well as specific recreation facilities improvements. But we are currently very embedded in the town of Zionsville, helping to utilize their again, like I said earlier, the challenges of the current financial moment, and helping to match the dollars they have available to right size their operations, their programming, and the kinds of parks improvements that they're dealing with day to day. Austin, I'm going to pass it to you to. Absolutely.
Yeah. And in terms of economic impact, is there a specific, talking about the system in general, talking about specific projects, what kind of facet of?
Specific projects.
Yeah. So we can actually run a RIMS model that actually will do the economic input output for economic impact. And so that's based in local dollars, and that's based on the jobs that it creates, and et cetera. So we can actually do that pretty simply, I guess, are readily available for capital projects. If you're looking at, that's why I asked that question, if you're looking more in totality, it gets a little bit more difficult, but we actually, I was the project manager on behalf of the Indiana Parks and Recreation Association, IPRA's Parks Impact Report that we just created 2 years ago. And that was actually measuring the economic impact of Indiana's local parks, but also health impacts and community vibrancy impacts and such. And so that report just came out a couple of years ago. All that to say, Indiana's missing a lot of data. And so that's actually the first kind of seminal approach of actually really trying to distill down Indiana-specific context for what our Indiana parks do. But we were able to do a statewide survey, and it garnered, I think, close to 1,000 responses too. So we have
But
some.
you do have an
data.
emphasis on community engagement and economic impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good enough.
Yeah.
Question, you've done a lot of great projects in a lot of great communities, many of which are very different than Muncie. How would you get immersed in the local culture and the local population to make sure that whatever projects we would do would serve our population and potentially attract industry to the area as well?
Certainly. I think there's maybe two components to that. The first one is probably just a personal component, through the public engagement opportunities that happen as a part of this process. I think the way that, you carry yourself and the way that you engage with other people, either kind of shuts down or encourages dialogue and communication. And, that's where I wish you had an opportunity to shake hands with and meet Ryan and Mark, because they're just some of the warmest, most inviting people to, that encourage other people to open up and be honest. And so I think that's a real strength that, we bring as framework planning and design. But I think there's also a more data-driven answer to that, which is, reliance on a series of community workshops, on statistically valid surveys, on good, data engagement. And one of the projects that we highlighted in there in Miami Shores, it's a smaller community, it's only about 12,000 people. And if you were to, sort of pull up the data or the slides that we did related to trying to uncover what are the greatest needs within that community. You know, you would see the whole list of options for, you know, improvements in the parks and recreation system. And then, you know, kind of across that is the full range of like 10 different metrics used to analyze, to score what are the greatest needs. So things from community workshops to, you know, public sessions with city officials, to level of service analysis, you know, based on amenities and acreage, and to the statistically valid survey. And, you know, there's about 10 of those things, and I think it just speaks to the diligence and the rigor in studying, you know, not just taking sort of what might appear on the surface to be the greatest need to somebody showing up in the community for the first time. It's digging really deep into a lot of different layers of data to make sure you're not just listening well, but you're representing equally. Any other thoughts from others?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we touched on a little bit, we've got Framework as the prime consultant, the project manager, and then you've got specifically 2 subcontractors listed. What do you see as advantages or potential challenges with working in that kind of structure in this type of project?
Sure. Actually, Austin, this might be, you know, you've worked so extensively with Mark and Ryan on other projects that maybe this is a good
Excellent.
one for you to tackle.
I get the air of the dirty laundry. So in my capacity, I've actually been able to work with Ryan and Mark in particular often, but I often work in multidisciplinary teams, both as a prime and a sub. So in a team that has multiple subs, I like that multidisciplinary aspect. You're going to have expertise that's looking at things in different ways. I think that is a very big strength. One of the challenges in working in these teams is when you are a sub, myself included, I'm a sub on this particular team, your communication and your meeting cadence and your logistics and your time frames, they ratchet up a little bit more important, because it's one thing when we're trying to meet a deliverable when we need to have a needs assessment, let's just call it that, to you all, to a review. We're all working on some different things, but we're working together collaboratively, and we have to make sure that our cadence aligns with the bigger scope, because our job is to come across as a unified team, because we are a unified team. We work together, we share information, we share data, and we have to have those meetings that we make sure that we're all on the same page and we are able to express our own ideas and personality, et cetera. Where it breaks down is if we totally all just go away and we're doing things independently, and then we just come back and you kind of just smush things together. That doesn't work that well. But that is a challenge in a team, and any team that has subs is you're taking different components and bringing them together. But it works really, really well when you're intentional with that process. And this particular team, we all have experience with each other, and so it helps break down that barrier a little bit better. So that's my honest take and reaction to working in teams with as a prime and a sub.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say real quick, I think one of the other values that this brings is each of us brings a different perspective, a different skill set that we can then use to collaborate and even kind of challenge each other as to, you know, you have maybe the experience in this, but what if you look at it from this other angle, from this other experience? And I think that really brings some value in ensuring that the final outcome has gone through its rigor. It's been tested. It's been, you know, it's had those ideas kind of worked through. And we've worked with Framework in the past, just over the summer. They stepped in and helped us with some public outreach for the Goodland Comprehensive Plan. And they were willing to jump in. They asked us where we were at, and you know, they didn't skip a beat. So, yeah.
I hope too by the end of this that you would have Ryan and Mark's numbers on speed dial and readily available to you, and it's not a confusing process of am I going to a project manager, or you know, how am I getting answers to the kind of questions I have. It's part of the strength that we hope to offer as a small practice is to be nimble, and like I said, to be readily available to you so that you know who your go-to person is and it's the principal in charge.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got one more. I don't know, structure points hiding out there still.
Hi.
Welcome.
Want us to stay here?
Sure.
That's the best place, yep, so everybody can hear. Certainly, if you've got any information, you can approach. We do all have the packet that you
Thank you.
presented, so we've got that and
Oh, yeah.
have looked through that previously, so.
Thank you.
This is cool.
Sure. Welcome, or yeah, good to be here. We are American Structure Point. I'm Luke Kessler. On this proposal, I am the project manager, and I would be the point of contact for the entire project. I'm a landscape architect with American Structure Point, and I have been working at American Structure Point for 5 years as a landscape architecture project manager, and beyond that, I've been working on IDNR type park plans for over 10 years in Indiana. My experience with Muncie goes back to Ball State, as I'm sure it does for many landscape architects.
Yep.
Lots of good memories there, volunteering at Craddock Wetland Preserve, and then also, at that time, I also interned with the IDNR too, at their office in Indianapolis, and got to know a lot of their staff. They have a lot of very long-time staff there, and we work with Greg Blytheless a lot. He's been there for 18 years on these park plans, so we've worked with him for every one of those that we've done. I'll let Lisa introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Lisa Dunaway. I'm a landscape architect and an urban planner at American Structure Point. I have 20 years of experience in the field. I've been at Structure Point 5 years as of Monday and been working on IDNR park and rec master plans the whole time. I'm also a resident of Muncie. My husband and I have been here for over 20 years. We volunteer in the community. We care a lot about the success of Muncie, so getting the chance to potentially work with you all on something like this would just be personally very meaningful to me. And I will turn it back over to Luke to introduce the third member of our team.
The third member listed on proposal is Patty Salgado. She's a public planner. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here due to a prior commitment, but she does have lots of public engagement experience, and she'd be our public engagement lead for this project. She has bilingual experience and would be able to lead that fluently either in person or with print or online materials. For public engagement, with that, we want to make sure that the IDNR is satisfied and happy with the park plan, but also that it is useful to you as a community and fully incorporates all the perspectives in the community and meets your needs for what you need to know about how the community is involved with your parks. To that end, we can offer things starting from basic stakeholder interviews, workshops, online surveys. We can also do other online formats such as a virtual town hall, which is very good for people that have to work or have childcare needs. That way they have an opportunity to engage with the plan too. We also have the opportunity to use interactive GIS as an engagement tool so that people can map out how they interact with the park, or we can ask them specific questions about different areas in the community and how those are working. And all of that is really up to what works for you and what you want to know about the community. Of course, we'll address what IDNR needs too. With that, when we're talking about what we're addressing, Lisa is actually going to talk about how we look at what you have now and plan for what's to come.
So as Luke said, we have a lot of experience working with IDNR. We have a good relationship with Greg, and there are requirements that are spoken and in writing, but there are also requirements that are unspoken and that we are familiar with because we've had a good relationship with him. And some of the things that he looks for, we will be sure to cover when we do the park assessment. So if you look at the back of your leave behind here, that map that says level of service example. So that would be the very first step in a process of analyzing what the existing facilities are, what amenities are in each, and what the conditions of those are. So there you can just see the overlap of the different service radius. The more green it is, the more covered those places were, in this case St. John. But then you can also see where there are underserved parts of the community. So from there, what we would do would be to go into each park and assess every single amenity in there, including any ADA compliance that might need to be met. But also IDNR likes to know where you're doing things right as far as ADA goes, so that would be something that I would personally document as well. But then different amenities like play structures, water fountains, bathrooms, you name it. We turn those all into data points that we can then use to give you nice, precise recommendations for different things down the road. So that could be a big range of things, and we would work with you to determine where you want to go with that, because in the past, for example, we've done everything from saying this part of the community is underserved, it needs an additional park, to more minor interventions where maybe there's some facilities that need upgraded or renovated in existing places, some more minor changes. Also, all the way to the other end of that spectrum, we have recommended in the past that parks be decommissioned and turned over to private developers. It's very rare, but sometimes resources need to be shifted and certain areas are just already overserved and there's no reason to spend money on those duplicated efforts. So it's always a possibility. I'll turn it back over to Luke to then move into the next stage of what I was just describing with that action plan schedule example you see.
Right, so part of this plan at the end, of course, if you're familiar with these type of 5-year plans, is going to be an action plan for the community. That plan is going to have a list of projects that are envisioned for the next 5 years, estimated budgets, estimated funding sources, both internal and external to the city for all those projects, and identifying where those are coming from. How do we personally envision getting to this action plan? Right, this is a stakeholder-driven process, right? And that needs to be stakeholder community engagement, synthesizing those things to know what's a good fit for this community, right? One thing we're also looking at is what are the national proven metrics? What are recommended for similar sized communities by benchmarking and things like that? So synthesizing all those things together, right? What are other communities doing that are in a similar situation, similar size as Muncie? What are the Muncie community, what are they asking for? And what is the park system able to sustainably provide for the community? And what are the conditions out there in the existing parks currently? What assets do you have already that might be unique, and taking that into consideration? So synthesizing all that together for this action plan. I think another benefit that American Structure Point can provide to this process is, in addition to landscape architects and planners, we are also a full-service engineering and architecture firm. So if there's any sort of issue that we come across in the parks that you feel that it's necessary to explore further, whether that's an engineering study or a feasibility study or something like that, or just have a quick look, hey, back of envelope kind of stuff. We have in-house, structural engineers, environmental engineers, architects, those kinds of people who can back us up with expertise. That way the action plan is really grounded, feasible, and addresses the actual needs of the community. With that, our relationship with DNR, we've got 2 current plans of this type that are being submitted this spring. We always try and do some of these types of projects every year. We've enjoyed working with Muncie on the Muncie Action Plan and also our road engineering and with the street department, I believe. Talk to some of them sometimes too for streetscape things. So with that, I just want to thank you so much for your time and the honor it is to be here today to present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
I maybe have a question that this would go to maybe one of the more boring aspects, but when I looked at your key considerations, with 31 parks, maintenance and operation planning, how would you place that into the list of priorities? It's something that's not very exciting, but it's really important, because if you don't maintain what you've got and you don't take care of it against like the elements and vandalism and those kinds of things, it can be a detriment rather than a benefit to a community. So how would you fit that into what you study, and how would you allocate for that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take this. You can chime in if you want, Lisa. But I think outstanding maintenance issues that you have, right, we would hopefully see those in the facility assessment process and our stakeholder engagement process as well. Being aware of that through surveys and things like that, we can become very well of safety concerns from the public, lighting, that kind of thing. And then as far as like operations of, okay, how can we improve the maintenance of things, right? Those are, I think that is some detailed conversations that we have with, stakeholders who, would include park department staff, those kinds of things. What issues do you have? Okay, how much, how much effort is needed to change how things are done to make sure that this situation that's been going on is resolved in the future, and how can you adjust the parks either both through operations and maintenance, but also long-term projects that will reduce that maintenance, of, okay, something that was built a certain way 20 years ago, maybe the maintenance issues on that are creeping up, and maybe there's a better way to do it now if it's ever renovated or upgraded.
I'll add too that it's interesting that Muncie has 31 parks. We've done several plans in the last couple years where similar sized communities have had 28, 29, 30, 32 parks. So you all are not unique in that you have a robust roster of parks, but are probably facing similar challenges to the other communities that we've worked with recently. One of the things that I like about how we break down the schedule, for example, is we give you time frames, we give you cost estimates, potential funding sources. We can help you identify outside parties that may be able to assist you with different things, and then work with you to set a priority list for those, because with 31 parks, that schedule is going to be quite long, and you're going to need some help to identify those priorities.
So you create a plan, but you also, and so we've got something tangible, but then there's also consultations with the Parks Department, and then with the board,
Right.
and others, our stakeholders
Yes.
in the city government. Okay.
What's worked well for a lot of communities in the past is to, right, we have a parks board, of course, but then to have an advisory committee of key stakeholders that may be park board members, but it may be other key individuals in the community or in the city that are well acquainted with the issues and the opportunities in the park system, and working with those people on a kind of day-to-day basis as the group that we keep updated, usually through like a bi-weekly check-in meeting every 2 or 3 weeks, like that, just to keep them assessed of the progress on the plan, and then also have an opportunity for a lot of that detailed dialogue about it.
And then how long is your time frame, your timeline?
The timeline could vary depending upon the full scope of the public engagement that you want on the plan. Summer's a great time for public engagement with parks. Some communities aren't this far ahead as you are, and we're starting a park plan in October, and that's very hard to do public engagement at Christmas time. So, yeah, I would encourage you to, whichever direction you go with this, to definitely think about that in the summer and things like that. The DNR, they require the first draft, which isn't the entire plan, but it's a significant portion of that to be in November 15th. So that would be a hard deadline on it. Though if you needed it sooner than that, right, we've done these in not that long of a time either, too. So, especially starting now, having the opportunity of the good weather for the public engagement, I think that is really great for the timeline.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm good.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
For your presentation, appreciate it.
We'll leave the extras with you.
Excellent, yes. We'll get one in the record, and we've got another individual, and we can share those.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I don't know if they're still out there in the hallway, but they're welcome to come back if they haven't already left, so. And as I kind of highlighted there at the beginning of the presentations, this was just essentially the interview process. Now, the individual board members here will all need to make our decisions and rankings. And then I will pass that back to Adam, and then he will follow up with just establishing fee schedule and scope to work through a contract, so.
When do you need that by?
If you guys could have that back to me by Thursday, then I can get it to Adam on Friday.
Sounds
So if you want to review packets, I think all of them provided some form of contact, so certainly if you've got additional questions, feel free to reach out those individually. And you can email those to me, and then I'll pass them to Adam, and then we make a formal announcement what the leader was and where they're pursuing at the next meeting, so. Next on the agenda, we've got the superintendent report. Carl's out, but Chris is here with us today.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So, Muncie Parks and Recreation Department removed 3 shelters from Alshire Park, McCullough Park, Alcourt Park due to safety concerns and have been replaced. Our team has also been busy painting, repairing picnic tables, park benches, cutting ornamental grass at Tui, Riverbend Park. They have also been out picking up trash, tree limbs throughout the parks, getting ready for spring cleaning. Last week, our team completed moving the mechanic into Centennial location, moving the Beech Grove Cemetery team into our location at Kirby and Madison. This will allow for our mechanic to be in the same location as the rest of our team and have easier access to the vehicles and mowers that needed repaired. Department staffing, we filled our mechanic's position with Nate Burgess, who was formerly with the street department in Prairie Creek.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Chris?
No?
How are you doing?
Fine.
You're
You're okay?
one month in, right?
Yeah.
Carl threw you the fire on the first meeting here.
Yep.
so. Any other questions for Chris? Next, we've got the programming and event approvals with Miss Nikki.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mark is unable to be here tonight. He had a prior commitment with Monroe. They have a game, I guess, on Saturday that will determine if they go to the state championship. So he's working with them tonight. But he does expect that to be his commitment with them to be over within the next 2 weeks. So he will then be coming to the Parks Board meetings to present the reports and do the event approvals. So for the report, for the summer internship program, We did receive 116 applications. So our office team is currently making calls to all of them to get them scheduled for their interviews. Interviews are going to take place next week between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. So we do encourage all applicants to check their voicemails if you have not heard from us by Thursday, because we are leaving a lot of messages. If people are not able to come in next week because they are on vacation and they are out of town, we are seeing people the following week. So it's not like if you can't come in next week that you're just going to get disqualified. Let's see here. And because we are only accepting 50 interns this year, we do encourage everyone who comes in for their interview to put their best foot forward, dress-wise and communication-wise. National Kids to the Park Day, we are currently planning out the day, which is going to take place on May 16th from 12 to 4. We're currently looking at West Side Park. So we are currently planning events to take place throughout the entire park. So we're trying to incorporate the skate park section, the basketball court, the playground area, and the baseball field. So a large area, but we want the kids to be able to come out, have a good time, and be entertained with different things. So we are going to have bounce houses, games, interactive events for the youth. We're going to, of course, have a DJ, and our staff is going to be handing out free popcorn again. Any organization that is interested in having a table at the event to either hand out information to the community, give out freebies, or sponsor a game can send us an email at muncieparks@muncie.in.gov. So that's MUNCIEPARKS @MUNCIE.in.gov, or you can call the office at 765-747-4858. And as far as programming goes, I think pretty much everyone knows we did have major cuts this year to our budget, but we are currently having discussions with some community partners regarding programming and discussing co-sponsoring a few events to keep the youth engaged. And once those details are finalized, Mark will bring those before the board. I have one event for approval, and then I have one that just needs kind of an approval on whether or not we want to waive the fees for the rentals. So the event that needs approvals is Mary's Miles, which this would be, I believe, the third time that they would be hosting this event. They are going to start and finish their 5K fundraiser. They are going to be at Westside Park. They're looking at August 8th from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. They are expecting about 200 participants. They have one CPD providing security, and they will be on site. They do have vendors that will be selling food that are all licensed. They are asking for the use of shelters 3 and 4 at Westside Park, and for the bathrooms to be open, and for 2 ADA porta pots to be delivered. They have also provided their proof of insurance for the event. I believe last year we waived fees for the porta pots, but that's what they're asking for, is use of shelters 3 and 4. The bathrooms will be open already, and then for 2 ADA porta pots, which we have. We have 1 ADA porta pot at our garage, but we would need to get another one from probably Hudson's. So they're looking at Westside Park on August 8th from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And so they're asking for everything to be in kind? For the shelters and for the porta potties?
Yes. But they're also aware that.
Do you want to have a discussion about this?
Yeah. Is that, that bathroom out there is not ADA compliant. So, I think my recommendation was that we do offer our ADA porta pot for the site, and then the normal fees associated with the shelter, and either they can source an additional porta pot, or we can work with our partners, but they need to cover the additional costs there.
Okay.
Unless there's any other discussion from the board on that.
I like that idea.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And then Southside Neighborhood Association, they are putting on the Gus Macker basketball tournament, which of course is not going to be in a park, but they are requesting the use of our 3-rise bleachers and as many 8-foot folding tables and chairs as we have available. And they are requesting, they're requesting those items, and they would like a waiver of the fee. So that is why we are presenting that to the board, even though it's not a park event.
So now we've talked about this in a couple different meetings. Gus Macker was one of the items that was on our 5-year plan potential. I know we weren't able to figure that out on our end, so I'm glad to see somebody's kind of picked up the torch on that. I think that this is probably a good case to maybe waive the fee for these items, but open to discussion from the board. I know they also asked for financial support, which this time we're not in a position to help financially for this type of event. But do see, I know they indicated that there's a 3 or 5 year agreement you guys have with them? 3. So could be a partnership that could grow into the future years as well. So you can see if she's got anything else to say.
Just a portion, like, instead of, like a waiver, we would actually, like, offer you advertisement.
Right.
Like, so it's more like a sponsorship. And you're going to get, like, a banner across one of the hoops and some commercials that get played throughout the weekend. I believe on the postcard, I'd have to look at my list exactly what you get for, like, each tier. But at around that, whenever I added up the equipment fees, it came to around $1,000, and so you would be at that $1,000 tier, and so you would get those benefits from us.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you remind me of the dates? again?
Yes, it's July 18th and 19th, with registration being on the 17th.
And you were saying you're expecting about 200 teams, and 70% of those would be youth teams?
Yes.
Correct?
Across the board last year, Gus Macker's teams, around 71% were under the age of 18.
Okay. Are there any other donations from any other city departments?
Yes, the Muncie Sanitary District are going to get us all of our toters, plus they are going to pair up with East Central Recycling, and they're going to donate some cash as well. So they'll be at like that $1,000 tier together as well. And that's as far, and then Destination Muncie. It's not really like government, but.
Yeah.
Did you secure funding with them?
They're doing the final vote at the end of the month.
Okay, good job.
So I met with them. Everything went great. It looks like it's going to be really good. So.
Good.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the waiver for rental of the bleachers and fold-in tables as available.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Anything else, Miss Nikki?
No, that's it.
Next, we've got grants and 501c3 update
Yep.
with Ms. Shannon Parrish.
All right, so I just wanted to let everyone know that we have now finally a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization that's walking alongside the Parks Department. We've received our EIN numbers, number like maybe a week ago. What that allows us to do, we have a separate board for the organization. It's called the Muncie Alliance for Parks and Sustainability, and it's to focus on Prairie Creek Reservoir and our city parks. A lot of people don't think that Prairie Creek is a city park, but it actually is. So that'll allow us to, we won't have to seek out external partners that maybe don't have similar missions as us to apply for certain grants that you have to apply through a charitable nonprofit organization. So it's just going to open some more doors for us. So excited about that. Then secondly, I wanted to bring up a grants update. We met Carl Malone, Mark White, myself, and Dan Ridenour met with the Ball Brothers Foundation Board last month, and we asked them for about $50,000 to help us with recreation funding. They allowed us to apply fully so I could submit a full application, submitted that. The limit, though, that we could apply for was $30,000. So I applied for a Bridgestone tire grant for another $10,000 that will go towards our youth recreation programs. And then I'm hoping that we could meet with, our team could meet with another local foundation soon. But I've been trying to get that jump started. It hasn't gone anywhere. So that we could just fill in that gap, that funding gap for programming this year. But that application is due in early April. So yeah, we need to jump on that one. And then our goal as a parks board in terms of recreation and just funding for some extra programming is to long-term have some strategic planning that goes into our grant funding and that whole process. So we're going to look at grants a year out from now, 2 years out, because of that SB1 funding that was, taken away. We need to figure different ways to fill those gaps so that we can offer the same programs. So that's all I have for that area.
Thank you for that update, Shannon. Next on the agenda, we've got the Prairie Creek report with Mr. Taylor Beard.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
I don't have a whole lot tonight. I wanted to start off by introducing Grace Taylor. She is the new administrative coordinator at Prairie Creek. She's been an awesome addition to the team.
Welcome.
Welcome, Grace.
In addition to Grace, I'm also working on hiring a full-time mechanic. Once I get that position filled, I'm hoping to get our part-time positions filled as well by the end of this month. We've mainly been working on getting the docks in. We have met some serious challenges with the weather lately. We had a couple great days last week, but the wind was just too much for my guys to be in the water. So we're a little stalled there. Hoping to restart that by the end of this week. I think Thursday and Friday are looking okay. After docks are put in, we plan to roll straight into mowing, trimming, shelter repairs, and just general park maintenance. Speaking of docks, the lottery will be the week of April 6th. We are still in the planning stages for that, but that is the tentative plan for now. The deadline is March 31st, so April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, we plan to have open switch days. Anybody who's unhappy with their pier, come in, switch with the vacant one, and there will still be the $50 switch fee. The campground bathhouse will be open for 2026, even though the campground is closed. Next month, we're having some advanced security features installed. All dock holders, cabin rentals, and primitive campers will have access to the bathroom either through the use of an app or a key card. And that's just hopefully cut down on vandalism. We're also having a camera installed on the outside of the bathroom just to kind of keep a wide monitoring of the area. This week and last, I've been working on securing quotes from dealerships for new mowers this summer. The controller's office has been a big help with that. I just received my last quote today, so I'm compiling a file with all of those. And hopefully we'll have mowers by the end of this month as well. We don't have, I think we've got one working mower right now, so it'll be nice to make that transition. And we're switching from gas to diesel. All the research I've done seemed to be diesel is a better bet for our uses. Just more reliable, longer lasting.
How many do you need mowers?
Right now, we are getting two 60-inch decks and an all-flex mower, which would be dragged behind a tractor. In the past, we've had 4 to 5 riding lawnmowers. I think that with the addition of the all-flex mower, that'll cut down on a lot of time. So we'll really just need 2 smaller ones and then the one big one for all of our open areas. And I think that is everything from me.
I know you've worked on kind of equipment inventory and assessment of facilities and what we've got out there. Any other deficiencies or issues that you're seeing that are going to need to be addressed?
We had some issues with hand tools. We didn't have nearly enough drills for everybody. So this week and last week mostly, I ordered some impact drivers, a couple hand drills, and then other hand tools like screwdrivers, socket sets. We actually didn't have a complete socket set, so I ordered 2 of those. Other than that, I think we are doing okay aside from vehicles. That's something that'll definitely need to be addressed this year, early next year. Our trucks are in rough shape, and I'm hoping that this mechanic position will be able to help with that, but there's obviously the issues of funding.
Yep.
So.
Which leads right into my next question, is how that comes out of the capital budget. I assume, I know we've got some money in the line item there. Is mowers going to pretty much drain that, or how are we looking?
Actually, not really.
Standpoint.
About half.
Okay.
We have 2 tractors right now. One is a John Deere and one is a Kubota tractor. The Kubota tractor only has 150 runtime hours on it because the John Deere does everything the Kubota does but better. So we plan to trade that in to put towards the all-flex mower. And the rest would just come out of our mowing capital budget.
Okay.
And looks like we still have about half left over afterwards, which I'd like to put into utility vehicles like a side-by-side, maybe a couple more golf carts, just for events like Ron Bonham Day and Ironman.
Have you 2 started hiring beach staff and seasonal staff yet?
Not yet. I just rewrote the job description. The beach attendant and boat launch attendant are now the same job description. So I think that'll take some of the challenge away of trying to fill spots here and there.
Okay.
If somebody were to call off, we have people that are trained for both positions. I plan to do that beginning to mid of April.
Okay.
What about a security plan for this coming year?
I also plan to hire at the same time.
Is the security team likely done?
I'm looking at 2 part-time security.
Okay.
Next year, I would love to rewrite the budget for more security because I think there really is a need for it out there, and 2 part-time really doesn't cut it. I think that should be a full-time position.
What about the boat launch? Have you rethought about the hours that you have that staffed?
Not yet, but that's something that I'll need to look into.
Any other questions for Taylor? Or for Grace, I guess?
Do we have events?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, events, thank you.
No events.
No events for
Not
proposal?
proposed yet, no.
Okay.
Okay.
We have some ideas, we're working on them. That's one of the things I've been working on. I have a sheet set up with a list for ideas of events every month through the whole entire year. So we're mainly focused on Ron Bonham right now. We've got all of the vendors booked for that. We have all the entertainment, the concert, everything. We're working on food trucks right now. That's been our big tackle, but
we'd love, after we have that all locked down, to start setting up some events for every single month just to get people out there, get the community back engaged, let them know that we're still open and happy to have them. I also set up a monthly newsletter, so I have a link live on Facebook, and we have people coming in asking for it. Once a month, we're going to work together and make a newsletter with all the updates happening in the park and send it out to anybody that wants it. We have quite a few people interested in that. We've also been really focused on the social media, logging back into the Facebook, getting a hold of it, letting people know that there are events and things that are going on. I also have goals for reimagining the upstairs old restaurant area. We're hoping sometime this year or next we can get that open again with some sort of event space.
Oh, awesome.
Yep, that's what I've been working on.
Have you two thought about maybe ways that you could use the park for different events?
Yes, definitely. So, as she mentioned, we think monthly events would be awesome. The one thing that I for sure want to do this year is a Halloween event. I know Prairie Creek's done it in the past. We've got plenty of space for it. My team's excited to work on it. So, something else we've tossed around would be a summer carnival, kind of similar to Ron Bottom, but less focused on 4th of July and more focused on just games, recreation.
We're also hoping to host events too that cost us very little, cost the people coming nothing, and it's just about bringing people in, like even as little as summer picnics or potentially as big as a farmer's market, just different ideas like that.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. Any other questions for the board?
I would recommend reaching out to Ironman and those folks sooner than later, because that's such a beast to not only participate in, but to put together on our end. There's a lot of moving parts where they're looking for volunteers, and they expect us to assemble all, organize all that, which you'll be great at, Grace. So if you need help identifying who that liaison is on that side, I could help you. Okay.
I think Dustin,
You know?
the mayor's office,
Great,
mentioned
yeah.
having a meeting next month, I want to say, a
Good.
preliminary meeting. So I plan for both of us to attend just so we can be a part of that.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've got old business. We don't have anything detailed on the agenda, but I did want to talk about and bring up the Tui pool. We're still attaining quotes and trying to get a resolution for how we're going to update some of the equipment facilities there, and also what the management structure is going to look like for this year. So it's rapidly approaching, but we're working through those details and hoping to have, I hoped we'd have more direction this evening, but that just didn't come through. So I wanted to update the board on that. Any new business from the board? Any other action items from the board? Any action items or event approvals from the public? And lastly, we have public input or public comment.
Okay, we have two people. First one is Roger. What's your last name? Dittmar. Dittmar. Dittmar is the last name.
Roger,
I'm
thank
Roger
you.
Dittmeyer with, I run the Catfish Pirates. I'm also with AMVETS Post 12. I run the Veterans event that we've been doing at Prairie Creek for numerous years now. Been a great event for us. I've got some concerns when I applied for my application for the tournament, which we were approved, thank you. At that point in time, you guys were going through some administration changes, but they had mentioned to me several different times, speaking to them, that they were possibly looking into ways for events to decrease these boat ramp fees. This potentially could have a negative impact on my event because I don't keep any of the money. All this money goes to veterans. So I'm getting a lot of negative feedback because the boat fees ramp fees went up the way they did. A lot of people are not going to travel to Prairie Creek. You can go get a state park access ramp for $25. one-time fee, and you can fish every state park in the state as many times as you want. This $30 ramp fee that you guys doubled, we're going to go ahead and have our tournament this year, but if it adversely affects the number of people coming to our event, I'll have no choice but to move this to a state lake because of the fee. Last year we had around 44 boats, and I think we had somewhere around 16 bank teams. So last year was our biggest year yet. We were able to raise $12,000, and that all went to the veterans, stayed right here in and around Delaware County. So veterans need help of any kind. All they have to do is reach out to the commander at Post 12. There's a little process to go through to verify your credentials, and we'll definitely help them. I mean, anything from transportation, food. We had one last year that was displaced by a home fire and lost everything. We was able to get this individual back up on his feet in an apartment with some food and some clothing. He didn't know what he was going to do, had nowhere to turn, and we turned this individual's life around. So that's how critical this, what we're doing, is for our veterans.
So were you not charged a fee, a boat launch fee last year?
What's that?
Were your boats charged a
Yes, it was
boat launch?
$15 last
Okay.
year, but
Got
then
it.
you guys decided to double it. So, and I'm already hearing from a lot of people that's coming to this event that were there last year that I'm not coming because I'm not giving them $30. And I even backed my tournament fee off to help offset that, but all that does is that takes dollars away from the veterans. So that's my concern, is if you keep this like this, I think it's going to have more of a negative impact at your guys' Prairie Creek than a positive one. It's going to potentially bring less boaters there, and I don't think that's what you guys want.
Well, I know that you kind of referenced an alternate fee for tournaments, so that's something that somebody, you're not the first to bring that up, and I think something that, as a board, we can probably discuss is if that it's directly associated with an event or a tournament, that we may be able to adjust the fees associated with that. The other thing I guess I would ask you is, that and certainly if you don't want to present it before the board, if you want to reach out to the office directly or one of us, what your turnout is this year, to kind of, so we can get a gauge that how much that did affect it if it was negative. That would be good information for us to build on for next year to make a determination on how.
I know some of it's going to impact us because of the situation with the campers. A lot of them had boats and pontoons, and I know a lot of them that did camp out there, they're pulling their pontoons. They're not coming back. So something now, I didn't have a lot of them that actually participated in our tournament. There was a few, but some of those that did, they're no longer out there. They're not coming back. They've already moved on to other park facilities. So
excellent.
I'm hoping that it's not going to affect us too bad. I have a feeling it's definitely going to hurt us.
Do we have your contact information?
Yeah, I'm sure it's on the event
Okay.
approval there.
If not, I'll
What date is your event again?
It's the 23rd of May.
Okay.
That's weekend of the holiday weekend, but it's on that Saturday. So
To clarify,
Yeah.
the issue is the double of the payment, but not the original payment?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the.
So they were fine with the original payment, it's
Yes.
just, okay.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this not even just for the aspect of my tournament, across Facebook in general, just everyday fishermen, or people that go out there and want to enjoy the day on the water. They say, well, we're close enough for that kind of money. I'll go get a sticker to a state lake and I'll go to Brookville. I've seen that a lot on there. So just want you guys to be wary of that. You could potentially be driving people away from Delaware County.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
We got another name on there, Nikki?
Wayne Skate.
Wayne Skate.
Welcome, sir.
That was my issue. what he was just talking about. So I fish out of Prairie Creek, and I'm just, maybe I missed something. I want to question why the raise on our fees. Usually when something like that happens, it's to offset something else, pay raises or other expenses. Can y'all just briefly tell me why the hike in all the fees? Drastic hikes? in all
Yeah,
the
so
fees?
I know these fees have been popular discussion recently, but I guess I want to remind everybody, these were actually voted on back in September when we had established these. So kind of rewind a little bit. At that point, we were still in the very early discussions with the American Water Company. At that point, we had made a decision to pause awarding any new docks and pause awarding any new campsites. Now, as everybody knows, since then, we've actually closed the North Shore campsite down. But at that point, we knew there was going to be a loss in revenue from the loss of docks and campsites. So we evaluated not only the launch fees, but all of the rates across the park, and all of them were adjusted upward. So it wasn't just the docks, it wasn't just, at that time, the campers or the piers, it was essentially all prices across the site to match what we were seeing in a lost revenue.
So closing down the campsite that you guys decided to do made you lose money. So to make up the money that you guys decided to lose, you raised prices on other things.
At the time we did the rates, the campsites were not closed yet.
Oh, I thought you just said it was to offset those.
So at that point, we were not going to award any sites that were lost through attrition. So if somebody did not renew a campsite or did not renew a dock, per the direction of the water company, we were not going to fill those spots. So based on our historical averages, we lost between 12 to 15 campsites, and we lost between 30 to 50 docks annual that would go into either the lottery or the award system for that. So that's what we were planning for and anticipating when we adjusted rates.
Okay. Okay, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
No.
If not, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. A lot of new
you.
faces in here. Appreciate the interest and the support of the board. Always welcome. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
First?
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
All right. Hi.
If there is something that we can do to help you with that 501c3,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.